I'm going to show you how to build a motion spec for your UI animations so you can clearly communicate design intent to software developers. I'm Ryan, and this is Motion Methods. Alright, so I created this motion spec kit in Sketch. It's free and it's linked down below. The reason it's built in Sketch is that it uses symbols and overrides, which make templating your designs so much easier. So here you can see this is an example of what a motion spec could look like. It's broken up into layers, so a logo layer, username field, password field, and success animation sprite. And each layer has different properties that are animated, so scale, rotation, opacity. There's a blur here. This one just has position and opacity, and so on. Each property runs on a timeline, and you'll have the delay or the start time, the duration here, and then if there's any easing applied here. Let me show you how you can build one of these things. Head over to the sample motion spec page, and you got this layer grouping on a timeline. So I'm just going to undo that. So just a note here, all of these things are symbols, so if you click into them, like this, you'll see on the right a bunch of override information shows up that you can edit. So I'm going to change this to the login button, so that's the layer name. You can change the anchor point information, blend mode, and parent layer. So if this layer was supposed to be parented to another layer, you would enter that layer's name here. Now move on. Just to note with all of the different properties, the transform properties, so position, scale, rotation, and opacity, they can be defined either as absolute values, like this, where it's one start value and one end value, or relative values. So if I click on here, I can swap this symbol for position relative, and it goes from showing 2 values to 1. And that's the one I actually want, so I'll leave that as is. So you can see in the overrides, you can choose the axis that this will animate along. So I'm going to set the x-axis, and let's say it moves 100 pixels. And I'll just leave units as is, so it will show pixels. Okay, so that updated. That's good. Now I want to change the duration information and the start time. So I'll click on this one, and you'll see over here, I've got the delay and then the duration. So say I wanted this to start at 200. So I'll say 200 milliseconds here, and I want it to be 500 milliseconds long. So I'll put 500 there. So you can see that the labels changed, but nothing moved. So I could either adjust this manually to be 500 and then shift it, but I'm not going to do it that way. The cool thing about this is that 1 pixel on the timeline is actually equal to 1 millisecond. So you can enter the duration in the width value of this symbol, so say 500, and it'll actually match the timeline. And then similarly, if I have this delay of 200 milliseconds, I can add that to the x position of this symbol, so 200, and it'll shift it to exactly 200 milliseconds. So that's pretty cool. And the last thing here is easing. So by default, there's no easing set, but you can click down here and there's a bunch of different presets that these are common easing curves that you can apply. So for example, in out quart, and you see the curve as well as the label for the easing applied to the duration on the timeline. I'm going to switch it out to something else like just out quart, and you can see the curve here. Cool thing here is when you adjust it, it actually moves with the duration, so that works too. All right, so I'm just going to delete these 3 options here because I don't want to, oh, actually I want to keep that one. And now I'm going to just shorten this up. Everything snaps together pretty cleanly. And then I'm going to shorten this one. Okay, so these 2 options here are, this one is for if you have sprite animations, you can enter the frame numbers, like when it's supposed to start, when it's supposed to end. So I'm just going to click in here. You can see you can edit all that information in the overrides. The timeline information is the same as what I just showed. And then this one, another option. In the example earlier, I showed that you could put a blur here, but you can name this whatever you want. Say you had some sort of warp effect that you had defined. You can type in warp, and then whatever values, maybe it's like 100% warp to 20% warp. And then you'll see that's how it shows up here. And then similarly, you can adjust the duration with some easing, of course. When you're done, share the spec, include a video, GIF, or prototype of your design, as well as any additional details you think are necessary. And that's it. If you found that motion spec kit and video helpful, please be sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. I really do appreciate the support. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to make a video that covers some of the other ways to create motion specs. Thanks for watching.